The Pacers lost to the Heat. Somehow they shot incredibly well. Pascal Siakam was amazing. Haliburton was great. Turner did enough. And they lost. What just happened? We'll break it all down, or at least try to today on a Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Saturday/weekend, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, what just happened? Really, what just happened? Pacers lose to the Heat in Miami in an insane game. Truly, for neutral observers, an awesome basketball game. Lots of incredible shot making from great players, back and forth, trading leads in the fourth quarter. The stars were the players playing well. In a lot of ways, it was a very fun game. I think this will be looked back on as a fun game for the Pacers, and truly not like a devastating loss, but they played well enough to win and kind of beat themselves. The stuff that they did poorly was stuff that they could have controlled better. Defense was poor, rim finishing, an extremely underrated part of this loss. Rebounding, loose balls, the stuff that Rick Carlisle's pointing to. So much to get to from a game that, if you had told me so many things before this game that ended up being stats, and the Pacers still didn't win, I would straight up not have believed you, right? I mean, for starters, in this game, the Pacers, I mean, this hangs over all of it, right? They made 21 threes, and they took 39. Unbelievable, right? Over 50% on even close to 40 attempts is a slam dunk game. You should win that game almost every time. And in fact, this is the first time in Pacers history that they made 20 or more threes in a game and shot 50% or better from three and lost. It's hard to do. You know how hard it's to do? You know how many times it's happened in NBA history? Every game of all time, 27 times ever. It is exceedingly rare. Ironically, the Pacers won one of those games earlier this month. They beat the Wizards in that insane game, and the Wizards made 23 threes that game and shot over 50%. It is becoming more frequent now, but it's still extremely rare. And that happened, and the Pacers only had 10 turnovers. They took care of the ball, and Siakam was amazing. He made 8 threes and was going ham in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about that later. And Tyrese Haliburton was pretty good. And Myles Turner was 5 for 9 from deep. How did the Pacers not win? How? Those things I just said alone. 36 for Siakam, 19 and 10 for Haliburton, only 10 turnovers for the Pacers. They made 21 threes. Turner was 5 for 9 for deep. That they should win. They should be a 70-win team if that happened. It's crazy that they lost this game. How did it happen, right? I've set up way too much scene setting, but it's required because that was a crazy game. Here's how it happened. Thing one, the Heat deserve credit for this. They also shot really well from three. The Miami Heat actually were very close to the Pacers in percentage, 0.7 behind. They went 17 for 32 from deep. Tyler Hero went 3 for 10. The rest of the Heat went 14 for 22. The only other player besides Tyler Hero who on the Heat who did not shoot 50% or better from deep was Haywood Highsmith, who went 1 for 3. Jaime Jaquez made his only attempt. Bam Adebayo went 2 for 4. Davion Mitchell's made 7 threes in a row. He made both of his attempts. Duncan Robinson went 4 for 6. Kyle Anderson barely plays. He went 1 for 1. And Alec Burks, Pacers killer, if you remember from the playoffs last year, went 3 for 5. They were hot. Now, granted, some of them were pretty good looks. They were doing a great job playing paint and out. Tyler Hero played very well. Davion Mitchell moved the ball well. The Pacers defense was not good, and we'll get to that. But they shot it very well. They deserve credit for that. The Pacers lost this game beyond that with a couple things that we'll get to chronologically here. First up was their just general defense was pretty flimsy, right? They had several chances to slam this game shut. The Pacers made 12 of their first 15 threes. Insanity. Like, they should have been up 15-20 at that point. The Heat were like 6 for 10 or something at that point from deep, so like kind of in it, but the Pacers could not put it away. They were only up 11 or so at that time because the Heat, Hero was awesome. He was 8 for 15 on his twos, getting to the rim with comical ease. Haywood Highsmith was wiggling free inside the arc. Duncan Robinson was doing well to kind of skate into shots he likes. Bam Adebayo was 6 for 10 on his twos. Jaquez made all his. The Heat were doing a good job getting to shots they wanted, and the Pacers were not doing a good job preventing them from doing so, right? For all the good offensive stuff the Pacers did, they did not keep the Heat out of the paint. In a game that was played perimeter, and did not have a ton of possessions, the Heat had 54 points in the paint and did much better getting to the foul line. They took 13 free throws. The Pacers only took 8. Some people hated the officiating in this game, and there were certainly some weird calls, including a crucial missed goaltend that really hurt the Pacers. I'm not going to get into that today. However, what I am going to say is that is where the Pacers, to me, looked the worst in this game, was their inability to have enough defensive pressure on the Heat to force them out of shots that they wanted. They took 84 shots in this game. I would say 3 of them were just bad shots. And that was concerning. Tyler Hero was the catalyst of this. He only went 3 for 10 from deep, but he was getting to spots that were really damaging for the Pacers. When he got where he wanted, the ball just zipped around for the Heat, whether it was him flipping it to someone who passed it to the scorer or him himself passing to the scorer. He moved it pretty well with 7 assists. Whether it was Davion Mitchell just kind of bullying his way to spots he wanted. He had a few possessions just moving Tyrese Haliburton out of the way. Bam passing inside the arc well with his post-to-post play with Khalil Ware or setting up shooters. They were just playing a very connected brand of basketball, so much so that the Pacers had to adjust in the second half. The Pacers were, started 12 for 15 from deep and then gave up a terrible run right before halftime. That was a huge swing in the game. And then gave up another run after they started the third quarter really well. And that got the Heat up 80-78. And at that point, they were defending so poorly, having such a tough time keeping Hero away from the spots that were allowing the Heat to just flow into whatever offense they want. They started to trap Tyler Hero. And I actually thought they were doing a pretty dang good job of it. It was making his life harder. His percentages looked a lot better, but the Heat were doing a good job getting out of it and moving the ball well away from it, but they were getting slightly worse shots. In the clutch, that came back to bite them. Hero wiggled a little bit free on the Heat's last important possession. Haliburton a step-ish late getting to him, so Nembhard stunts over to help. And I think both of them did what they were told to do. I don't think either of them messed up, but it did leave Davion Mitchell wide open for a 3. I think the Pacers were okay leaving him open. He drilled it. He deserves credit, and I suppose if the Pacers were a little quicker reacted to the initial action, they would have needed to send 2 to Hero. They do deserve blame. They defended it not great. But I'm not saying either player messed up by both going to Hero in that moment. Mitchell made the wide open 3. But that was a microcosm of the game, right? They weren't doing well keeping the Heat off of their spots or defending drives at all. And they had to adjust to it in a way that ended up hurting them at the end of the game. The Heat, not typically this awesome ball movement, drive and kick your butt team. They tied for their 4th most assists in a game the whole season. That is both a reflection of their ball movement and their very good shot making in this game. And the Pacers couldn't stop them from doing it. That wasn't the only thing the Pacers did poorly. There's a lot more I want to get to, but to me, that is where I felt the worst about what they were doing is if you're that hot from deep, you should be up huge numbers. The fact that the Heat could consistently put the ball in the basket really just crushed the Pacers. The Heat shot 57% in this game. That just shouldn't happen. They were at 31 for 52 on twos. That's one make short of 60%, 59.6 for the game. The Pacers, for reference, on twos were at 53%. The Pacers shot better on threes than twos, right? That was the difference to me, was the lack of force and pressure there. Now, there were a lot more things that went poorly for the Pacers. Just that alone should not have been enough. They had that much of a 3-point advantage, but that was the soft spot for the Pacers. And a concerning thing for them, look, Dave Searle and I talked about this yesterday. They need to show consistent force and teeth on defense, right? No one knows what to expect of them down the stretch in the postseason on that end of the floor. Not a start that will inspire confidence for them on that end of the floor. For a stretch run, the Heat deserved to win. They made shots. They got the shots they wanted. The Pacers couldn't stop them. Pacers did everything they could on offense to keep up and couldn't do it. Heat deserved credit for their shot making. Pacers couldn't keep up. And yet, rebounding, loose balls, yuck. And one other thing that is not being talked about nearly enough that cost the Pacers in this game coming up. Before we get to any of that, we need to talk about DoorDash, NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Steph Curry just did it. You could have done it this week. Here are a few ways you can take advantage of this deal. A game day feast after an epic 50-point game. Celebrate. Order wings, pizza, burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. Late night cravings? Whether you're staying up watching highlights or just need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Lunch on the go? Need a quick and easy lunch the next day? Dash Pass can get you your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees, and you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. If you're planning to catch the next game, order your to-go snacks and meals at a discount. Get ready for more high-quality scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save when any player scores 50 or more in a game. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Back here on Locked On Pacers, thanks for making this your first listen today. And every single day, your second listen's got to be Locked On Heat to hear about their side of this crazy win for the Miami Heat, who need wins. Pacers could have locked up a tiebreaker with the Heat, bigger distance over the play-in tournament. I mean, a huge win for their playoff push. Alas, they still have to think about the plan a little longer. Heat with no Wiggins. I mean, this could have been a big one for the Pacers to get, especially with that Southeast Division tiebreaker looming as a thing. Pacers have to think about it again, like last year with the Magic. Alas, they lose. They got to play good basketball going forward. Okay. The other thing that was costly, Rick Carlisle mentioning this post game. First thing he says, rebounds and loose balls were a problem. Untimely turnovers are a big problem as well. Pacers had 10 turnovers. They were at poor times. Haliburton threw it away on their chance to tie on their last offensive possession. That was not good. They had a lot of their turnovers. It felt like during big Heat runs. Those are obviously correlated things. Turnovers compound a big run. Nope. Like, I'm not going to kill them for 10 turnovers. I am going to crush them for the rebounding and loose balls. 50-50 balls were not 50-50 balls. It was a very Heat culture game in that way. The Heat were all over those. That's just a hustle. It's just effort. Pacers did not have it in this game. I don't have a ton of analysis for that. It's got to be better, right? Like a game you don't need, but on a night that the Pistons lose, the Bucks win last night, like you got to be keeping up with these teams. It's a winnable game. You're playing decent, and they don't hustle. That was brutal. But the rebounds were killer. 30 total for the Pacers. Now, let me talk about rebounding the way I always do. The Heat did not miss very many shots in this game. In fact, in total, they missed 36 shots and one free throw, right? So 30 rebounds, okay, whatever. The offensive rebound difference was not that far off. It was 12-9. 6 more defensive rebounds for the Heat, and the Pacers missed 5 more shots and 3 more free throws. It's not like so crazy, but if you watch the game, the ones that were the Pacers had some just killer ones they had to get that were like toss-up rebounds, right? This isn't the numbers are not fair to the Pacers. The numbers are fair to the Pacers. They lost the rebounding battle by 9 or 7. I can't do mental math. They lost the rebounding battle by 9. And a lot of it was like they could have got it and didn't, or like they were in position to get it and couldn't. Thomas Bryant had his FU rebound early, and the rest of the game was not enough hustle on the glass for the Pacers. And the Heat got a lot of second chance points that were just backbreaking, painful moments in this game. The Pacers had to have more of those, right? The offensive rebounding battle was not far apart, right? 12-9 in favor of the Heat. The second chance points was 18-6 in favor of Miami. That was absolutely killer. They capitalized very well on their offensive rebounds, and that is why I think people are talking about rebounding to the extent that they are. And I would have led with this if I thought it was the lead story. I don't, but it was a huge factor, and the Heat, the way they took advantage of their rebounds was way more of a difference in the actual rebounding themselves. They deserve a ton of credit for that. Khalil Ware with 12, Bam Adebayo with 7. No Pacer had more than 6. Myles Turner only 3, Siakam 6, Aaron Nesmith 6. Nesmith rebounded well. Thomas Bryant had 4 offensive rebounds off the bench. Nobody else met the level they needed to on the glass in this game, and it was really tough for the Pacers. The possession battle wasn't so bad. They took 4 more shots, but if you count in the free chances should have been in the Pacers' favor, given that they won the turnover battle and that they shot that well, and they still couldn't win. Rebounding was certainly a factor, a big one in this one. It's just tough for the Pacers to have that be a thing, right? They did a decent enough job forcing the misses at times. After they started trapping Hero, I thought their defense for the parts of the third quarter actually looked okay. And that third quarter, Miami with 29 points, their second fewest in any quarter of the game this season, 28 in the fourth. Like the trapping did slow the Heat down a little bit, but too many offensive rebounds for the Heat made it not fruitful, not enough of a success from that, because the Heat could still get some second chance points, keep their possessions alive, and they finished well inside the arc, which if you get an offensive rebound, you're right at the basket. The other thing, this is the most under-discussed reason the Pacers lost this game. Layups. The Pacers missed so many freaking layups. Siakam had one that I couldn't believe he missed. Thomas Bryant had two I couldn't believe he missed. Haliburton had a few that I could not believe did not go in this one. They were just so rough. Myles Turner had one that should have counted that was a goaltend that I mentioned earlier. In the end, this probably was the actual statistical difference in the game, right? And I'll run through it. 4 to 14 feet. Heat shot 56%, Pacers 58. Very close. Long twos / mid-range twos. Both teams stunk. There were only 2 made in total. Above the break threes. Both teams shot it very well. 58% for the Pacers, 50% for the Heat. Corner threes. The Heat shot made 6. The Pacers made 3. That was a little bit of advantage Heat. Pacers made 7 more above the break. The difference, layups at the rim, 0 to 4 feet. Miami Heat, 13 for 17, 77%. That's great. That's what you should be at. The Pacers were 14 for 25. They missed 11 shots inside 4 feet. You're not going to make them all. Bam Adebayo is a good defender. I get it. They missed so many that they can or should make. And I think that is when they go back and watch film of this game, well, they'll just go, how did we leave those points on the table? Like, a couple of them were just comically easy. Like, how did that not go in the basket? 3 missed free throws hurts when you only take 8. So and some of those came from shots at the rim. That absolutely killed them to me. Just sunk them, right? Because those are the points that you want to get. You're trying to get that shot and you don't get it. And it really hurts your mentality to be missing those. But the other thing about them is the Pacers are very good at capitalizing on this. When you miss a free throw, you give the other team a very easy fast break chance, because that means someone who missed and is typically on the ground or pouting about a miss or complaining about a foul, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, has to run 94 feet to get back in the play. And the other team knows it. And that let the Heat are not a quick team. It let them get running just enough in this game. That was brutal to me. I think the missed layup difference was crushing for the Pacers, among many things that did not go their way. I mean, hats off to the Heat, right? They shot very well. They finished plays. They adjusted the Pacers' adjustment and got it done. This was the Pacers' first loss in 2025 where they held a fourth quarter lead and did not win the game, right? They've been finishing games pretty well this calendar year. They did not in this one. Crunch time was tough. Siakam hit 2 huge threes to keep the game tied late with about 2.5 minutes to go. And after 118, the Heat were way better at executing. Duncan Robinson floater, good defense. Haliburton tied it again, but Davion Mitchell's 3 was huge. They defended well on a turnover. They just were better. And the Pacers were not good enough late. That was a flub their first time, and a very weird February just wrapped up for the Pacers. I mean, that one is a tough way to end it. They just went 7-5 in February. How many games, if you look back on this month, do you think the Pacers played truly well in? Right? They played 12 games in the month. Memphis game played very well, right? Beat Memphis. Memphis is really good. They beat the Clippers at home. They played, no Kawhi, no Norm, but they played well in that game, right? They deserved to win. They played very well. The Wizards game, they played bad and won. The Clippers game in LA, they played good for lots of stretches of that game, but not a great 48-minute performance. They stole it. They played bad in Utah and won. They played okay against the Hawks and won. They were dreadful against the Lakers. They were not very good against the Knicks. They were against the Nuggets and Heat. I mean, you could argue truly good performances. They had 2. If you count like quarters of games or half the games, they had 3 this month. It's pretty lucky that they went 7-5 in February. The wins keep the vibes good, but the Pacers need to start playing a little better, right? They need to get some consistency down. We were just talking about this. If they keep, and it is nice that their schedule coming isn't too hard. Houston's not playing great, and their next 5 games are Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, before huge games against Milwaukee the week after that. They need to find a new gear pretty soon. Haliburton's playing good. Siakam just had a monster game. Turner's shooting very well right now. Like, they have a lot of individuals doing well, but just the collective product hasn't felt quite at the level it needs to be, although post All-Star has been better, right? They defended well against the Raptors. Their best 2 games of the month were post All-Star. I might be overstating this. I just want to see another step of consistency from this group, and these next 5 games are going to be really important in cementing that, because following up a good defensive game against Toronto, or they give up 91 with this, was not the consistency they need to show. It is what it is. It is what it is. They fell to 5th with this loss in the East. I mean, they're fighting with this Bucks Pistons group to stay where they need to be. Being a home court team would be huge for this Pacers group. Couple more things to get to, because there was a lot of good stuff in this game, despite the loss that I want to talk about before I get you out of here. Before we talk about any of that, though, we need to talk about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout a game. So even if you missed the opening tip-off, or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Most people love FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. If you're backing your team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, you never feel like you miss your chance with FanDuel. Plus, the app, it's really easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. How about that right now? New FanDuel customers can bet $150 in bonus bets. Can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, jump on over to Locked On Lakers. Austin Reeves got hurt. That's a good place to go. Or Locked On Sixers. Joel Embiid's out for the season. They won 3 games in Philadelphia that Joel Embiid played in this year. What? That's insane. We're going to rapid fire through 2 things in this segment. One, there was a lot of good stuff in this game. Tyrese Haliburton was great in the first quarter. 19-10 with 1 assist again. Post All-Stars looking good. He needed a little more force inside the arc today. I thought he had 4 steals. His off-ball defense was terrific. He had one of the best steals I've ever seen from him in the first half of this game on an X-out. That was just awesome. They won his minutes. He played 36, and they won. The bench was not very good in this game. Haliburton was very good. Pascal Siakam started kind of pedestrian, but then was just awesome in the second half. He had 18 points entering the fourth quarter. That's still pretty good. 18 points in the fourth quarter. Jumpers. Oh, he was buttery from 3, 8 for 11. He hit 2 huge early threes that just made the shots look so easy. The whole Pacers team did. Skating around defenders, turnarounds, beautiful. Clutch threes, dotting it right in the eyes of defenders. Oh, it was amazing. It is such a bummer that A, they lost his minutes because he was stuck with the bench group that was not playing well, and B, that they lost the game because it hurts to lose when Siakam gives you that. I mean, he was just unbelievable. The Heat were putting small guys on him. They didn't have the right. They either had to put Khalil Ware on him, who is a center who's not used to his spin moves or speed, or a guy who's just way shorter than him because Jaime Jaquez got hurt. And he started to punish those matchups. I thought they got to him a little too late. His post-ups were there all night. They got to him at a poor time. And the only stain for Siakam was he was 5 for 10 on 2s in this one and missed 2 free throws. But he was just sensational in this game. It was awesome to watch him cook. Myles Turner continues to reign in threes. His rebounding needs to be a little better, but the threes have been there for him since the break. Andrew Nembhard was awesome in the first half of this game. 11 assists, his season high. Almost had a double-double. He was moving the ball very well. They went to him a lot because Davion Mitchell was on Haliburton and Tyler Hero was on Nembhard. That's an easier matchup for Nembhard, and he totally took advantage of it. Ben Mathurin's going to miss a few games. He's a wrist injury. He would have been huge in this game. It would have been very helpful to have him out there. Jarris Walker played no stats in his 7 minutes. I actually appreciate that he tried to fit in. He defended okay. He'll probably keep playing with Mathurin out. He needs to play well, right? He needs to continue to show what he can do. At no fault of anything he did. He's out of the rotation. He's got to take advantage of his chances. They will miss Mathurin because last year when Mathurin went out, McConnell was superhero. Changed games for them. He's not been that guy for a while. They need McConnell to step up. If he can't quite do that, they're really going to miss Ben Mathurin. But Nembhard was awesome in the first half. Haliburton was good in this game. Siakam was terrific. Turner made some threes. Obi Toppin was efficient, but you didn't really feel his presence. Thomas Bryant was missing too many jumpers. They could have used a little more from the bench, but they did a lot of good stuff. The shooting was just off the charts awesome in this game. They truly should have won. This will be looked back at as a very painful defeat for the Pacers, who now head to March. It's March. That's a significant time on the NBA calendar. This episode's coming out on Saturday. I have no idea when most people plan to listen, but it is buyout market time. So the rule is in the NBA, if you are waived by your former team on or before March 1st, you are playoff eligible for other teams. So the Pacers have an open roster spot. They will know all of their options available for them for the rest of the season plus the postseason very soon. Now, remember, they're not going to sign a rotation player. They don't have room in their rotation for anybody. So keep that in mind as you kind of assess what they're going to do. And it seems like center makes the most sense for them. I'll actually run through the buyout market in more detail on Monday when it's fully known what it is and what the Pacers' options are, right? The buyout market right now stinks, right? The group of players waived since February 1 that have not been signed by another team since then. I will read them all to you. Mo Bamba, Chris Duarte, Reggie Jackson, James Wiseman, Armel Traore, Patrick Baldwin Jr., David Roddy, Taze Moore, Josh Richardson, Christian Wood, Isaiah Wong, Adam Sanogo, Bojan Bogdanovic, Johnny Davis, Liam Robbins, and then waived yesterday, PJ Tucker. It's not a good group, right? It's not a great buyout market. You might have said, Tony, I heard somebody else got waived and you didn't say that. They already signed somewhere else. If I didn't say their name, they already signed with a different team. So that's not a great group. I mean, the Pacers, like a center makes the most sense. Mo Bamba, of the names I just said, certainly makes the most sense. We'll see what happens on Saturday. That's why I'm not going to say, here's who I think makes sense of that group, or of somebody who hasn't been on a roster all season. Maybe Amadette makes the most sense of that group. No one stands out as like way more significant than just like converting somebody or running up some 10 days for a while. So that is the other thing to keep in mind as this weekend goes along. Keep an eye on any transactions that happen specifically on Saturday. Anybody waived on Saturday can play in the playoffs for a different team this season. And the Pacers, I think, want to center the most. Chad Buchanan hinted at that at setting the pace. They tried to sign Alex Len. They did sign Jahlil Okafor, right? Center has been what their actions say. Center has been what their words say. Center has been what intuition says. But if something helpful comes available, I'm sure they would explore it. So that's the other thing to keep an eye on this weekend, but I'm not going to get into too much detail on it until we know the full picture of what's available to the Pacers. So you can expect that on Monday on this podcast. We'll talk Pacers Bulls, another game the Pacers should win, but they played very well and did not win on Friday. Chance for a bounce back at home. I'll be there. Then we'll talk Pacers Bulls and the actual buyout market and what their options are, including potentially converting someone if they haven't agreed to terms with anybody by that date. And then next week, lots of fun stuff. I'm going to go to Atlanta, so I'll be at both games in Atlanta. Of course, they have home games in between, so I'll be at, I think I'm only missing 4 games the rest of the season or something that I won't actually be at. So lots of fun stuff coming here on Locked On Pacers. Thank you all for listening and seeing what I have to say. It helps me be able to go to these games. It's very appreciative, even when they lose. I know people don't like to lose as much when they lose, but I hope my analysis makes it more fun. This one was tough for the Pacers. They'll try to bounce back against the stumbling Bulls, who just beat the Raptors, actually, on Sunday. We'll talk about it then. You can find me on Twitter at Tony R. East. I'm on Blue Sky at the same place. This podcast has a Twitter feed. It is at Locked On Pacers. It's a good way to find it and see other posts relevant to the podcast there. Thank you guys for listening. Have a wonderful weekend. We will catch you on Monday.